behind your head.
You should put jelly beans in it for the grandkids.
Alrighty, it is 8:30 and I will bring to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for October 18th. We have an agenda before us. Are there any additions, deletions to that agenda? Ken, are you on speaker or? Yeah, you are now. Okay, is there anything you wanted to add to the agenda? Okay, you were just talking to yourself, I get it. Okay, all right, Councillor Christie.
I'll move the agenda as presented if there's no addition.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor? And carried unanimously. We've pre-circulated the minutes of the September 20th Committee of the Whole. Are there any errors, omissions, concerns? Councillor McGee.
I move approval for the minutes of our October 18th, excuse me, September meeting.
All righty, we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented for the September 20th Committee of the Whole meeting. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Our first agenda item will be 3.0, Community Grants, Round 2. Carolyn, you want to give us any preamble to this?
Sure.
You done now?
So, thank you, Reeve. I bring you today agenda number 3.0, Community Grants Round 2, 2022. The Round 2 Community Grant application deadline was on October 5th. Attached for council's consideration are the applications. There are a total of 4 eligible applications received, and the total amount requested for Round 2 is $16,044.47. There is $50,000 approved in the 2022 budget, and council distributed $10,950 in Round 1. The balance left for Round 2 is $39,050. So in the past, I've read out all the applications, and council, and when I'm done reading the applications, then council would go through each of them and rate them yes or no, and if their majority says yes, then the application would go through. And if the majority was no, then the application would be denied. So I don't know, is that the same process you'd like to do today?
Well, it's the way we've been doing things. What's everybody's thoughts? Yes, yes.
All right, I'll start with Kneehill Minor Hockey. The total project amount is $10,000, and the amount they are requesting is $5,000. If approved, the organization would use the funding to purchase new jerseys. Kneehill County has provided the organization the following funding in the past from the Community Grant Program. In 2018, they received $4,500 to purchase rink dividers, and in 2020, they received $2,732 to purchase smaller nets. The next application is the Linden Lodge. The total project amount is $13,000, and the amount they are requesting is $7,500. If their application is approved, they will use the money to install a new kitchen floor and paint the common area. The county has not provided a community grant funding to this organization in the past. The third application is the Three Hills Beautification. The total project amount is $5,088.94, and the amount they are requesting is $2,544.47. If their application is approved, they will use the money to purchase 5 more planters to be placed along Highway 583 and 2nd Street North. Kneehill County has provided this organization with a $4,000 grant in the past to purchase hanging planters and brackets for for Main Street. And they did apply the last round in round 1, 2022, and council denied their application. Then the 4th application is the Three Hills Figure Skating Club. The total project amount is $2,000, and the amount they are requesting is $1,000. If their application is approved, they will use their money to purchase new skating dresses and costumes. The county has provided them the following funding in the past. In 2015, the county provided them $2,960 to purchase equipment, and in 2020, excuse me, we provided them $1,169.99 in training equipment. And those are your 4 applications.
Thanks, Carolyn. Any questions from anyone? Yeah, on any one of them. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Forbes.
So the Kneehill Minor Hockey one, would the county's logo be going on the jerseys, do you know?
I do not know that answer. I could get back to you with that answer. Well, Kneehill is actually on them because it says Kneehill. Yeah, yeah. Logo. We could.
I just think
council
it would
could use that
show
as
really
a-
great support if we choose to go in this direction. It would show the community that the county is invested in not just one thing, but many.
For sure. You could put that as a, we'll
one
provide
of
you
the
funding as
conditions
long
of
as
the
our logo is
grant?
on it. Pardon?
One of the conditions of
Yeah,
the grant?
a condition. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Reeve.
Are there any questions to deal with any of the other? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Christie.
Just curious, if we do that, what's the cost implication and do we pay for the logo? Over and above.
Well, there'll be some sort of embroidery on it regardless of. Thoughts? No? Yes, go ahead, sorry. Okay. I would agree with you. Are there any other questions dealing with the community grants before we make decisions? I have a question and I can't remember. There was the Three Hills Beautification Program. Last time they applied, it was turned down. Am I correct on that? And it was for the same ask, was it?
It was for the same, excuse me, same ask, but their funding application didn't make any sense.
Okay, but by the looks of things, this time we're doing artificial greenery, so like a Christmas theme-ish stuff?
Yes, their containers will be all year round. So instead of just having the summer greenery, they'll also put winter lights and greenery and
Okay, so
logs.
it'll be a year-round
Exactly.
kind of, okay. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Cunningham, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna mention, if you look out front right now, they changed it to fall. Like, there's pumpkins and kind of, it's a fall display now, so.
It's pretty dark when I came into town.
Okay, you gotta look when you leave. So yeah, my understanding is they are doing it seasonally, so yeah, have a peek at the one out there now. It's pretty awesome.
All righty. Okay, any other questions? If not, we can start making decisions. Okay, who wants to start? Councillor McGee? Kneehill Minor Hockey Association for $5,000 for uniforms, and one of the conditions would be, I take it, to have our logo as being a sponsor.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. Counselor Christie?
Yes.
I would go with a yes. Counselor Cunningham?
I'm a yes too. I just, to follow up on Counselor King, you do see a lot of, like, if it's a corporate, they've got their logo on there. So again, just back to that question, so would we pay for that logo then on that jersey, or would that be minor hockey that would pay for that, I guess? I would probably just want to clarify that. Or maybe that's something we have to ask minor hockey first to know that.
We could ask, see if there is a cost involved, I guess. Counselor Forbes?
I'm a yes.
Okay. Counselor King? All righty. Well, that seems fairly unanimous. Okay, so what we will do is we will request that our logo be somehow stitched into the uniform, and I guess depending on the cost, we'll probably end up incurring that. Okay. All right, our next application is for the Linden Benevolent Society for Seniors. The ask is for $7,500, is it?
That is correct.
Did we change our, sorry, I didn't read through the policies. Used to be if it was over $5,000, we asked for delegation.
Yeah, we changed that in our
We
policy.
changed that, okay,
Yeah.
so no longer required.
No.
All righty. Counselor Forbes, which way do you want to go on this? Picking on everyone around me.
That's all good.
Looks like he's going farther away.
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Cunningham.
I'm a yes.
Counselor King? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, another unanimous. All righty. All righty, our next application would be for the Three Hills Beautification for the pots, 5 more pots along 583 and 2nd Street North. I'll go with a yes. Counselor Christie?
Yes.
Counselor McGee?
Yes.
Counselor King? Counselor Forbes?
Yes.
Counselor Cunningham?
I'm a yes.
Just zipping right through this stuff. Okay, and our last application is for the Three Hills Skating Club. Uniforms, the ask is for $1,000.
That is correct.
Counselor Christie?
Yes.
Counselor McGee?
Yes.
Counselor King? Counselor Forbes?
Yes.
Counselor Cunningham?
Yes.
And I would also go with a yes. Okay, so do we need a motion to recommend to council? Is that correct? Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that would be correct.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to approve or to recommend to council that our second round, was it up there? All right, a motion is made by Counselor King. We will wait for it to come up on the screen. Okay, are we good with that motion there, Mr. Hogan?
I believe that we are.
Okay, so I'll read it back to Counselor King. The motion, it was moved that the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council to approve the following Round 2 community grants to nonprofit organizations funding to the following organizations, and those are the ones that are listed there that we had already approved, so. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, go ahead, Counselor King. All righty, should that be, well, we don't need that as part of the motion. Okay, Yep, nope, that sounds really good. All righty. Is there any other discussion to the motion? I see none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. We're ahead of the agenda, but I see Ms. Dow is here. So if you are prepared, we can start 15 minutes earlier. Is there anything that you would like to set up prior to? Okay, welcome, Ms. Dow. What we will do is introduce ourselves as council, and then starting from my far right.
Carrie Foves, Division 4.
Good morning, Lorley Michelle Cunningham, Division 5.
Morning, Jerry Whitstock.
Wade Christie, Division 6.
Faye McGee, Division 1.
And Councillor King.
I'll tell you a little bit about myself real quick. So my name is Lisa Dow, and
Oh. Yeah. Once the red light is on, then look
oh,
out.
that, okay. Perfect. All right. So my name is Lisa Dow. I'm married to Dallas. He's a fourth generation farmer, I think, in the county. So he's been here a lot longer than, or his family's been here a lot longer than me. I moved here in 2002 when we married. And then in addition to farming, I'm also a teacher. So I've taught at both PCA and Three Hills School, various grades and subjects. This year, I'm doing something a little different. I'm teaching at an online school in our division, so it's a new challenge for me, but I'm enjoying it. So my purpose here today is to ask council to reconsider a few requirements for the scholarship program that you offer. So the first one is to reconsider the requirement of an Alberta diploma. And the second is to reconsider the requirement of being a first-year post-secondary student. So I'll just go through my slides real quick and then answer questions. So university, college, post-secondary, however you want to say, is different now than it was. Even when I was a student, a high school student many years ago, there was one way to get there, and that was with a diploma. And that was the only way you could get into university and college. There were really no other roads you could take. And so if we look at that today, it's obviously still an option. Many students graduate with a diploma, they get into their post-secondary, and off they go. But education has changed a lot, especially post-COVID, and there are several other ways now that you can get into university besides just your diploma. So the first is you can get a certificate of high school achievement. This is a little bit different than your diploma. A diploma requires 100 credits. A certificate of high school achievement requires 80. So you're taking away 20 credits, mostly through electives. This is something you would see most often for students who transfer in to Alberta during their high school years from another country. So any of your ESL students, if someone moves here from the States or from any other country, this is probably what they're going to end up with, is a certificate of high school achievement, just because they don't have the time they need to collect all 100 credits if they've come from another country. The other way is apprenticeship. So at the age of 16, in Alberta, you can start apprenticing with, most often it's like auto mechanic or cabinet making or like a trade almost. So this is another way you can get into university. Unfortunately, with this option, what we tend to see as educators is most of the time students don't actually get their diploma because they have a job that pays them, they like what they're doing, and they just don't finish the credits. So if they start as an apprentice and then they don't get their diploma and then later they want to go to university, they're sitting there without a diploma. But I mean, universities still recognize the work they've done as an apprentice as part of their education, and it's accepted. So it's kind of a little bit of a backdoor route, I guess, if you want to go that way. General, or your GED. So your GED is 60 credits. It's all your core courses. There's no electives in that. You can take your GED if you are over the age of 18 and have not graduated with a diploma. You can also take your GED if you are in an outreach school. So I know in Strathmore they have an outreach school. Most of the students at that school will be working towards a GED and not toward a full diploma. They're, you know, your students who struggle a little more and who have other things going on, and they just kind of go for the basics. And then the last way you can get into post-secondary is through homeschooling. Homeschooling has many different ways and forms that it's vast. There's a lot of different things homeschoolers do. Some homeschoolers just learn at home and they still get their diploma. Some homeschoolers will go the GED route, and so they'll just take core courses and forget all the electives. Some homeschoolers will do their own thing entirely and not follow any kind of curriculum at all. Some homeschoolers combine that. I mean, it's endless, I guess, the way you can homeschool. But it's interesting, homeschool, especially over COVID, has gained a ton of popularity. And it has become definitely a large way that people are, that students are using to get into post-secondary education. So if we look at this chart, I mean, you have your Alberta diploma is one way to get in, but you have 4 other options as a way to get to post-secondary. And I mean, when I was, like I said, when I was a high school student, these didn't really exist. But today, education looks different. And interesting, in our county, in Kneehill County, this is the breakdown that we see. About 75 to 80% of people applying to university, or sorry, students in our county are going to school, working on their Alberta diploma. And about 20 to 25% of students in our county are using one of these other ways of education. And so I'll tell you how I got my numbers because I'm sure you're curious. I went on to the Kneehill demographics page, and as of April 2022, there were approximately 960 school-age students in our county. That was off, you have a page with demographics, which I found very interesting, actually. And then I contacted the Kneehill Homeschool Association, and I sat down with them, and we counted out how many kids we knew in the county that were homeschooling, and we came up with the number 258. Now that is actually probably on the conservative side because you do not have to register with them to homeschool. So there's probably more, but we went with that. So if you do the math, 258 divided by 960, that actually gives you about 27% just in homeschool. I knocked it down a little bit because, like I said, some of the kids who homeschool will actually get their diploma. They just do it from home. So I kind of went a little conservative with my estimate of 20 to 25% using one of those 4 ways, and then 75 to 80 with the diploma. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, so on top of this, so this is what we see in our county. About a quarter of school-age students in our county are not receiving their Alberta diploma. They are going on to university some other way. And in addition to that, we see universities making changes as well. Now, these changes really came about over COVID because high school students weren't getting the credits they needed, the diploma exams were put on hold, everything kind of changed. And so as a result, universities and colleges also changed their acceptance and how you get accepted. So diplomas are not required for some universities at all. So if you look at Athabasca University, their only requirement is that you're 16 years of age. That's it. That's their requirement. You can take any course, you can enroll in any bachelor's degree program you want if you're 16 years old. So if you had a student who at 16 knew what they wanted to do, which I admit is rare, but if they knew what they wanted to do, they could enroll in Athabasca and have a bachelor's degree by the time they're 20. And good for them. I mean, if that's the route they want to take, good for them. So, you know, so that's one example. The other example is universities and colleges have gone to program-specific requirements. So I have a list here, and this is part of my job. I'm going through all the colleges and universities and seeing what their requirements are for non-diploma students. So we have NATE, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. We have SAIT, U of C, Lethbridge College, Olds College, Grant MacEwan. All no longer require a diploma. They have program-specific requirements. So what that means is you choose your program that you want to go into, and they will tell you what they want to see on your transcript. Again, they're not looking for a diploma. So for example, if I wanted to be a chef and I wanted to go to SAIT, all they want to see on my diploma is Language Arts 10-1 and Math 10-3. They don't care what else is on there. They don't care. And same with NATE. If I wanted to go there and become an animal health tech, then I'm going to require English 30-1, Math 30-1, Bio 30, and Chem 30. So what you're seeing now is instead of saying you have to have a diploma to be accepted into our post-secondary, they're just saying pick your program and we'll tell you what we're looking for. And that's all they're doing. So they're kind of making all those electives that students have to take to get their 100 credits irrelevant, right? They don't necessarily care if you took health or if you took, you know, phys ed or any of that. They want to see the courses that will help you succeed in that particular program. So when we look at this as a whole and we see, okay, so universities have totally changed how they're accepting students, and we see there's more than one route to get into post-secondary, and you know, you see a quarter of your school-age students in this county using one of those other routes, then I kind of look at it as an educator and I say, okay, well, maybe the requirement of an Alberta diploma isn't necessarily the route you're going to want to take, because you're basically getting, you know, telling 25% of your students that you can't qualify because you've chosen to do something other than this one requirement. So I would suggest, or ask council to consider, instead of the Alberta diploma requirement for the scholarship, just acceptance into a post-secondary education. So they all get acceptance letters when they have been accepted, and perhaps that's more of a way to be more inclusive for all the students in the county in terms of being eligible for the scholarship. So any questions about that part?
I guess I have one question. Currently, we require the Alberta diploma. It makes up 20% of the score of their criteria. So if you do not have an Alberta diploma and you're applying to go to university, is there a proficiency exam test that has to be written prior to getting into that post-secondary institution?
Good question. So again, that is for most places program specific. So if, yes, so sometimes they will require you to write an English language proficiency test. That's the most common one. But again, it depends on what program you are applying for. Some of the universities, like U of A, I think it was, they still require a diploma to be accepted into their institution. If you don't have one, then they will actually suggest you get your GED before you can apply. Interestingly enough, the people applying, their number has gone down because I think students realize that there's a lot of other options, right? So, but that's, you know, that's school specific. So yes, if they don't think you meet the requirements, they will make you meet them if that's the route they want to take. As a student, I mean, I guess you're welcome to try another program or another school, or you can upgrade or do what you need to do.
Okay, because currently, like I stated, 20% of our criteria has to do with Alberta diploma. So that would, we either have to eliminate that as a condition, or else whoever applies and does not have their diploma loses 20% right off the top.
Right, unless you change that requirement to just acceptance into a university or college. And just change that requirement altogether. Yes, otherwise you're right. If they didn't have a diploma, I guess they would be 20% out off the top. Yeah.
Are there any other questions from council? Councillor Cunningham.
So in your student's case, if I'm understanding correctly, she's been accepted to the U of C. So they obviously haven't, one of their criteria is not to have an Alberta high school diploma. So
Correct, yeah.
was there a certain credential that she had to have to get that entrance to that, or how did that work with U of C, for example?
So yes, so my daughter just graduated in June, and she's going for a Bachelor of Science at U of C, although she has taken a year to work because it's expensive. So, so yes, for her case, they wanted to see the Bio 30, the Chem 30, I can't remember all the requirements. So my daughter was homeschooled. She went through an online school. So she doesn't have necessarily the Alberta Bio 30, but she has the equivalent of the Alberta Bio 30. So they just took the equivalent and considered that as good as the Alberta one. Yeah.
So there wasn't a concern for them that it came from outside of?
Nope. No, because they deal with they deal with international students all the time, right? So even someone coming from BC, they're gonna have to look at, the equivalent, which in BC it's Bio 12, and so they're gonna have to look at that and make sure it transfers over. And they do that provincially, they do that with international students all the time. So, and what they look at is what was studied in Alberta. So in Alberta, in Bio 30, they have certain things they have to study. And so they just look and say, well, did they study a percentage of that? And if they did, then it's considered a transfer credit and it transfers over. Yeah. So again, if you're not using the Alberta curriculum, you can still meet the requirement as long as what you're studying is similar.
Does council have any other questions for Ms. Dow? Just a question for you, Councillor King. Are you able to hear us well? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on then, if there's no other questions, to the second part, which is the requirement that the student be a first-year student. And again, with my daughter just being accepted and looking at costs, this was kind of new to me all this summer, but she joined a program called Grant Me. It's an online program, and they have every single scholarship in Canada listed on their site. There's thousands of them. So anyways, it was interesting though, if we look at the scholarships available in year one, this is for a Bachelor of Science, because that's what my daughter is looking at. So the money available in scholarships in Canada in year one for a Bachelor of Science is $555,000, roughly. In year two, that drops by half. So in year two, if she's applying for scholarships, she's only able to access $293,000. And of course, competition's fierce, so there's no way she's getting anywhere close to that. But it's interesting that in year two, the amount that's available for students drops by half. Now, if we look at the Bachelor of Science costs at U of C, in year one and two, a Bachelor of Science will cost her approximately $11,000 each year. That's just books and tuition, that's not living accommodations. In year 3 and 4, that goes up. It costs her about $15,000 a year. And the reason it goes up is they do labs that are just more intensive. They have to do, the courses are a little more intense. It costs more, I guess. Well, I don't know, I don't run the university, and I kind of did a little bit of research with other bachelor degrees. So I looked at engineering, I looked at, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Anyways, I looked at a couple others, and it was the same trend. Year 1 and 2 were X amount of dollars, year 3 and 4 were more. And so looking at this, as an educator, as a parent, I think as they go forward, it's probably going to benefit them more to have that money available for them throughout all 4 years. I mean, a lot of people in year one, they have the money, they've saved some money, or they maybe have an RESP they can cash in, or however, you know. But after year one, you still need the same amount of money and more in year 3 and 4, but there's so much less available. And so just kind of from a practical point of view, you know, for the requirement that you be a first-year student, I'm not sure of the rationale behind that, but I just think looking at the numbers, it would probably benefit students to have it available at any time throughout their university, as long as they haven't received it prior, right? So if you make that a requirement, you've never received the scholarship before, then they can use it any time throughout their 4 years when they most need it, especially as costs rise year after year, right? So. Yeah, so I think that's all I have.
Yeah, I do have, I don't know if it's a question, that's not a question, it's a comment. I guess going into year one of university, you would have the opportunity to work for basically July, August, maybe even September. I don't know, when does university start? End of September?
Yeah, usually like the last day or two of August is when you're moving in, and then you start up in September.
Okay, so you've got a couple months for employment opportunities.
Yeah.
But once you're enrolled and you get into second, third, fourth year, you've basically got 5 months of opportunity for employment. Am I correct there?
4, probably. You'd have May,
4?
June, July, August. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most universities, by the time you're done writing finals, you're near the end of April.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess when we look at the criteria that we use, that being the written essay and letters of reference, which make up basically 80% of the program, I don't know if you'd be able to use, I don't think you could pit a first-year university student against a second, third, fourth-year university student, because they would be, I think once you're in university, you're probably more proficient at writing and, well, writing. It's just, your knowledge is far greater. So to pit them against somebody coming out of high school with the criteria we have, the ones coming out of high school would not have too great of an opportunity, in my view. So we'd either have to make the two scholarships. One for coming out of school and the other one for post-secondary
For
school.
post-secondary, yeah. Yeah, no,
And
that's
I
a
don't know if
valid point.
that's, any thoughts from council? Councillor Cunningham.
So yeah, and that's a really good point, Reeve. In the research that I did, I can't remember if it was about 35 different counties that I looked at. It is quite common to have it open to first, second, third, fourth year student. Just the criteria that I kept seeing over and over again was that it could only be awarded once. That student couldn't have it twice. So yeah, that's something to think about too. So.
Does anyone from council have any questions for Ms. Dow at this point in time? Councillor Christie.
I'm just curious, you just indicated that you're teaching on an online school. How many students are in it and how many are from the county? I'm just curious if you'd have that number.
Ooh, good question. The online school I'm teaching at has 1,400 students this year. And it was an interesting trend because after, you know, COVID's kind of done in the schools, so we expected the high school enrollment to go down, and it actually increased by 9% at the online school. So, so most of it is high school students who are just wanting to do their core courses from home and move on. They're kind of done. So I don't know how many are from the county. There is a large percentage. I know that just because I meet with a lot of them and I'm online with a lot of them, but I don't have that number. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. The other thought I had is 20% of the criteria for our scholarship is from the diploma, but they don't necessarily get all 20%. It's based on their marks and gives us some kind of a a baseline for all the students to match for us and to keep it on a even playing field. So I'm concerned how I don't want to decipher what a university has to decipher to see who's most qualified. That's my concern.
Right, which I understand, but I mean, if the again, if you're changing the requirement simply to just acceptance, then if they're accepted, that's worth X amount of percent, and if they're not, then I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I'm not
if
sure
they're not
how it's set
accepted,
up.
they were never
They're-
eligible.
That's right, then they're not eligible, right? So that's something that, yeah, I'm not sure how you have it set up, but I just know in terms of the students in the county and the trend that we are seeing as teachers is that diploma is not as important to them. They want to get their courses, they want to get onto university, and they're, you know, and it's interesting, the changes we've seen with the way universities are accepting students is fairly new over the last 3 or 4 years because of COVID. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates down to the high schools, because now, honestly, if I were a high school student, I wouldn't care if I had my diploma. I would get my courses that I need for my program and I'd move on. Because that's, you know, and I think you're going to start seeing that with students as they kind of figure out, well, hey, look, why am I taking phys ed and home ec and health when I don't need to? And so it'll be interesting as we move forward in the next few years to see how that changes how we educate, right? Like even as a teacher, that's going to change how I am educating the students I have, so.
Yes, go ahead, Counselor King. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Counselor Forbes.
So when we do the academic part, we're putting in their actual number, like their grade, right? From language arts, social studies, all of that. Your daughter obviously received a mark as well in those areas.
Yes, she receives,
So I'm on the fence with this at the moment anyway right now, but as a council, we could put those numbers in to determine the academic level as well.
yes.
Okay.
I guess my comment to the academic level is that 20% has a lot to do with the work ethic, the skills, and the dedication to learning excellence, which I believe is important, because if you don't develop that in high school, you're going to need it when you get to post-secondary. I'm not going to go where my marks were. And they weren't that bad. But I went through the apprenticeship program and I found it very, very easy because I was good at math and I was good at a number of things. Architectural drawing, not a chance. But because of the ability to do that, anyway, regardless of. Any other questions for Ms. Dow? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Cunningham.
I guess more of a comment in terms of the academic. I think what I've heard you saying, if I'm correct, that really we're seeing different paths to entrance to post-secondary. So I think whatever path that is, if the post-secondary, if the student has met that criteria, to me, that would be more important than it actually being a high school diploma. So I would rather see it being like acceptance to whatever, whether it's a trade program, Bachelor of Science, nursing, whatever it may be. Then I think that would kind of suffice for that. And, you know, we do put the 30% on the letters of reference and contributions to school or community. So I think that will show, you know, that they have had that involvement in the community to kind of round that out. So just my thoughts on that. Thanks for coming, by the way.
You're welcome.
Okay, yes, go ahead, Councillor McGee.
I just want to thank you for giving us such current information. I found that very helpful in my collecting my thoughts over that.
Oh,
It was well done. Thank you.
thank you. Yes.
Councillor Christie.
I appreciate the information very much, and I'm glad I'm not a student. Thank you.
It's different for them, that's for sure. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for coming, Ms. Dow. Thank you for the information, and we will be dealing with this further on in our agenda. So
Sounds good.
now that we have the information, we'll be able to see where we go from there.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody need a break? Okay, recess. Don't put your tongue on the chain. righty, we are back online. We would like to have someone make a motion to accept for information the delegates info. Councillor McGee.
I move to accept the information by our delegator as provided, as
Okay.
information.
All right. So we have a motion to receive for information as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Councillor McGee? No, sorry. All those in favor? I need a break. And that's carried unanimously. Okay, we will now go on to agenda item 5, Kneehill County Scholarship Program. Mr. Hogan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this item is back before you. Council had directed a review of the county scholarship program to take place at the September 20th Committee of the Whole. At that meeting, it was moved to postpone or to continue that discussion at this current meeting. And so the continuation of that discussion is why this item is in front of you. So what we're looking for as administration is council's direction on what changes, if any, you might want to make to council's scholarship program, and we can see where the discussion goes from there, answer questions council may have, or pose some back to you depending on the directions you want to go.
Okay, thank you. All right, floor is open. Councillor McGee.
I was vowing not to go in circles again, and look at all the circles. Well, I will actually follow that with a, important comment. I've always struggled with the academic piece of this scholarship. You guys are probably getting tired of hearing that from me. I have 5 kids. 2 of the 5 would have qualified to apply and never would have won. So I can see that if we want to increase our ability to support our youth, and with the changes that are happening in the way we're doing things through universities and all kinds of schooling, I see some movement for me in that criteria. I do, though, have a strong attachment to wanting to know that the school is promoting, or the school is still being supported as part of our community as well, and how to balance that is where I'm really struggling. So I'm opening to hear some other people's ideas before I really actually put my solid thoughts to what I would like to see happen.
I guess my comment to this program is that it's been around for quite a while. It's been changed over the years as thoughts have changed. It is our scholarship program, though, Kneehill County Scholarship Program. It's up to the council to decide what they'd like to see. I still feel that academic achievement is very important. We did used to have at one point in time where academic achievement was graded high for the one scholarship and not so high for the second scholarship, to give the opportunity for different learning styles to be involved. But we changed that to the current policy. It's totally up to council which way you'd like to go on this, but we are going to have to be in agreement somewhat down the line. So I don't necessarily want to change the academic portion of it, but if we are considering giving a scholarship to people, to students that are already in the post-secondary, that would not be fair to have them applying for the exact same scholarship. We'd have to split this into a first year and secondaries, post-secondary education year, whether that be second, third, fourth, whatever. Which I'm not saying it can't be done, but I do believe that the students that are already enrolled in school, and yes, it's expensive. I mean, there isn't anything left around here that's not expensive. But they do have a greater opportunity to get out of post-secondary and earn some additional dollars. Whereas high school students, you know, you've got that 2 months and you're pretty much depending on mom and dad to front your ability to go have fun and hopefully learn something. But those are my comments. Anyone else would like to weigh in? Councillor Christie.
I believe the 20% academic diploma part of it is important. The comment I caught is that they, in the core subjects, even online, they have an equivalent thing. Whether that can be worked into if it's an equivalent test, I'm fine with that academic part being evaluated. Goes back to my other comment, I need a baseline on that 20%. And we don't see that as council, but administration does, which is fine. I don't want to overload the workload part of that to make it an even balanced line there. But if it's an equivalent test that they're passing online for the 3 core subjects, English, math, and sciences, I'm fine with that.
Councillor Cunningham.
So since we have 2, so what about if we kept one quite similar to the way we have now? And then the second one, we did it more where it was a little bit more open-ended, that it's more just a confirmation of a acceptance to post-secondary, could be open to first or second year. Like, could we keep one maybe more the way it is now and make the other one a little bit more, don't exactly know how that would look, but make it a bit more open-ended? That makes sense?
I guess my comment to that would be is if the second one is a little more open-ended, is it strictly for post-secondary students to be able to apply, or is it for high school plus post-secondary students to apply? Because there is I would think that after you've been in university for the first year, maybe second, third, fourth for sure, that your ability to communicate and, you know, the written essay, I don't know what the letters of reference would be, but it still comes down to the activities and personal achievements within the community here, which is tough to do when you are not here. And that's just a fly in the ointment. Councillor Cunningham, sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. I understand that. I think if you were like a second year, I mean, you probably, for example, when I went to school, I had to do volunteer work. So I think there would be probably some avenues for those students to be able to get the reference letters. Yeah, I'm not sure how it looks, but I think Mrs. Dow just made a really good presentation on, you know, the way that how we're educating our youth is changing, and even with the actual link to the, you know, Kneehill County numbers, I think it's just, you know, I think it's just something we really have to look at. And to me, if that student, however they got there, has met the requirements of the post-secondary, to me, that's a pretty huge criteria there.
Councillor King.
So I don't know necessarily that I'm disagreeing with Councillor Cunningham or not. I think one of the things that's driving our post-secondary now is cash, cash, cash. So I can give you 2 recent experiences of individuals who are either participating or have participated in education. My daughter, who's currently going, just the tuition and books, etc., not living costs or anything, probably going to be in the tune of $50,000 to $60,000. My employee, who is no longer my employee but is now my boss, that education cost was probably more $70,000 to $80,000, and so it's not cheap to go to school anymore. So I get the idea that, yeah, we want to be helping, but I'm not sure exactly where we want to go with that. So here's my thoughts. The criteria that they have to be have an Alberta high school diploma. I'm okay if we change that to say they have to be accepted into a secondary, post-secondary institution and have proof of acceptance. At that point in time, then because of the way they're watering down the acceptances, I don't think academic achievement becomes an important part of our criteria. And so then I go, I might be willing to say, I want to see that 20% taken out of the academic achievement side, because what we're asking Carolyn to do is to qualify all these different people in however track they went to say they're equivalent or they're not, and then give us a rating on their achievement. So I would say maybe what we need to look at is what's their contribution to the school and their community while they've lived here in Kneehill County, their leadership activities and their personal achievements become a bigger part of what we're looking for. The written essay stays there, and then the letters of reference become an additional part. So what I see is, and I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody, but we have students who are becoming less and less and less involved in the community as they become more and more focused on their electronic devices and on their own existence, right? So maybe what we need to do is look for individuals who are highly involved in the community, who are contributing to the society during their high school studies, whether they're doing that online or whether they're in an apprenticeship program or whether they just got their GED, whether they get it through homeschooling, I don't care. But are they involved in the community? What are they contributing prior to going to university? And then can they write? Can they communicate? And then can they get people who say this individual is got a great future and has demonstrated that throughout their education and life up to that point in time? So the letters of reference, their ability to write and communicate, and their contribution to society while they're living here in Kneehill County and taking their education. Just some comments.
Councillor Cunningham.
I think you stated that very well, Councillor King. One county that I pulled their information off of, their criteria was to be a resident of the county, provide a background essay outlining their rural experience, community involvement, volunteer and recreation activities, and to indicate their goals and objectives as they relate to your field of study, and in this case it was agriculture. And the third one was to provide proof of enrollment in a post-secondary institution. So to me that, I think that maybe kind of encompasses maybe what you're saying. To focus a bit, like to make sure there's that focus on, you know, the references and their involvement in the community.
Well, I want them to be able to outline themselves what they see as been their contribution to their community. And so, and then I would like to see that validated by their letters of reference. So my expectation would be is maybe part of the application would be for them to outline what they see as their contribution to the community during the time they've been in high school and or previous to that, and then have that validated by their letters of reference. But then I also want to see them be able to communicate and express their opinions on a specific topic like we have been asking them to do, just so that we can gauge, I don't know, it just gives us something to evaluate and gauge their potential for that award that we're talking. And I'm still a heavy supporter of, I'm sorry, post-high school first year. I don't think we need to broaden it to second, third, and fourth years.
Yes, go ahead, Carol.
If you do take the academic part out of it, you can actually make the deadline earlier as well, because we had to move the deadline to August 31st because of the diploma exams. The kids weren't getting their marks until like the middle of August. So we could move, if you, that was a consideration, you could move the deadline to July, early July or end of June, and then the kids would know if they had a scholarship before they even went to school, instead of being a month into school.
So I just have a question to that, Carolyn. If the marks don't come out from the high school diplomas until August, how can they be accepted into a post-secondary school? If
They have to have, the kids know what they need going in. So
So the
you'll,
academic achievement in grade 12 is irrelevant to get into?
well, you'll know, like, you'll have to have at least a 65% on your social to be admitted into. So if you don't have your 65%, then you don't meet the criteria to go into university, and you might not.
But when do you get that criteria then, that 65%? Is that
Well,
after your
usually when
finals?
you apply, yeah, you got conditional acceptance.
Okay, so then we don't change, okay, so then we change it to a conditional acceptance, and if something should happen and they don't get, they forfeit the cash?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
I don't want to be a,
yeah.
okay, I know this is, okay, I'm streaming it, so there's a word for that. The last word is giver. Yeah, never, I don't want to be one of those. Here it is, now I want it back.
That, good point, never thought of that.
Election agency.
There's the actual word, but I can't do it on screen. Get me off the hook. Good idea. No, I think it's important that if we give a scholarship that they are going. Counselor Forbes.
I also am, like Counselor King, in favor of, for sure, first year, maybe second tops. By the third and fourth year, the student has their funding in place. They're ready to take the long haul. The first and seconds might not quite so much, but for sure, first years don't. So that is where I sit with those type of things at the moment. I would eliminate the third and fourth altogether, because by that time you're on your road.
Counselor Christie.
I guess my comment is I'm strongly in favor of the first year, because we've never been short of candidates to apply for those grants. If we were withholding some, then look at the second year, but at this point, there's always 2 or 3 or 4 that are looking for that first year grant. So there's no reason for me to look past that. Like, the competition next year is gonna be a whole wave of new students, so.
Counselor Forbes.
My only reasoning behind saying first or second is because the funding, or the grants in the second year, as Lisa pointed out, are half of what the first years are. So that's the only reason why I was including the second in my thought process.
Counselor King.
So if we're eliminating that academic achievement and all roads lead to possibility to apply for our scholarship now, I think that we will get a greater number of first-year university applicants than what we've had to this point. And so I would agree with Councillor Christie in that if now we're allowing a GED, an apprentice program, a homeschooler, a person with a high school diploma, a certificate of high school achievement, whatever, as long as our qualification now is none of those, it's just acceptance in a post-secondary institution, first-year program, I think we'll have a greater number of applicants than what we've had in the past.
Counselor McGee.
I agree with that 100%. And I think the point is we would like that, because the more we engage with our youth and have them part of this process, the better it is. And you know, having just the top people in academics participating and feeling like part of the community, this would be quite the opposite of it, that all youth feel like they could be participating, and I think that's more cohesive to what we see as our strategic planning as well, is how to get them more engaged. I also wanted to add that I'm still having difficulties with the fact that I still want to somehow reinforce that being part of our community means being educated locally. And so I don't know, would it work to say accepted to a Canadian or rural secondary education, at least? I'm not sure how can we somehow project that as a requirement. And maybe it's just the way we list our achievements, but we need to see local, I don't know. When we see our small communities lose their schools, we're losing sustainability. That's what happens. And this can't support that kind of trend either. And that's where I'm really struggling.
Mr. Reeve?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor King.
That was the original argument that you made, Mr. Reeve, around the Alberta High School diploma, was it does, excuse me, help maintain our rural schools by having that as a requirement. Not that you couldn't get it through homeschooling, but it's one way that does keep people involved in the education system as it is within our public education.
And I would agree. I am a big promoter of public schools. I've seen what happens when schools lose kids to different reasons. And it hurts the whole, I mean, when you're sitting on the verge and you're going to end up losing, instead of having half a teacher, you're going to end up losing the whole teacher because of lack of lack of kids actually going to the public school. It affects not just, well, it'll affect the learning abilities of everyone that's left. We are not in a situation in rural Alberta where the schools are jammed full of kids and the opportunities aren't there for them to learn. We have another problem. We have lack of students and grades are being squished together, and I don't like the way that's going, and it's been going that way for a number of years. I'm just a big promoter of public school, I guess, is where I want to be with my statement. Is there any other comments, suggestions? Somebody want to? I don't know. What do we want to do here? I'm of the opinion that giving it to high school students, not post-secondary students, not a separate grant for post-secondary. So I would be well in favor of just leaving it as high school students going into their first year into post-secondary education. Councillor Cunningham.
Or just to clarify, like, how would you say, like, so first year of university, so like if a student takes a gap year, but then it's their first year, they would still be eligible? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Councillor Christie.
Well, I just looking at the two streams, university colleges and trades and apprenticeship, I would be in favor of having one grant for this university and college stream and $2,000 grants for the trade and apprenticeship part because of the total cost of the programs. And it would split it up a little more. I don't know, just a thought.
Councillor McGee.
I was thinking something similar. And to add to that, instead of asking for the high school diploma, could we ask that the education was made through an Alberta registered education program? So then our homeschoolers that went through Golden Hills would still know that that means them. And they're still supporting local. You had a longer distance local, but it is still local. Or do we, and would that be, and I'm suggesting that just for the two others, for the apprenticeship and I also would like to see that when we go to, if we do have the second stream for apprenticeships and so forth, that instead of using the word contributions made to school, community leadership, we could, that is one, but I'd also like to add participation, because it's the social dynamic of being part of something that is, to me, where the learning is. You don't have to be a leader in contributing. You could be a participant and be equally important. And so that's just a word thing that I'd like to mess with.
Does anyone have an idea, like if you go into an apprenticeship program, is there a waiting list to get into the program? Counselor Christie.
A lot of it relates back to employment and who's sponsoring you to get there. To get the door open, that's just what it takes. Like, one of the things I was just thinking about when my son did his mechanic stuff, when through John Deere and unemployment part of it, he was pretty much break even when he came out the other side. He's also a really good money manager, so a little bit conservative there on where that money came from and how he did it. But I know that he had huge sponsorship going on unemployment sponsored by his employer. That's where they routed him. He was also contributing to his education fund. Just the way he manages money was very strong, but at the same time, the program worked for him very well. So I don't know how much more funding you need for that apprenticeship, but I know that there's other students that have a struggle there, so I don't know.
Well, the only reason I was asking is because when I went through the apprenticeship program, and this is back in the mid-70s, I applied. Way too many students applying for first year. I waited, and of course I couldn't get in, so I had to actually go in and write off my first year. Once I got the first year written off, then I was automatically shunted into year two, which I'm, in the carpentry end of things, I'm sorry I missed year one. But that being said, the only way I was going to get into year two was to write off year one. And I'm just wondering if we're still in that same position where it's overbooked. Councillor McGee.
I'm not sure about enrollment, but what I have learned through CAPE and some of my other economic development stuff that I've been exposed to, we're not getting businesses willing to take apprenticeship people on, and that the support to the actual people who are willing to take that on needs to be increased for that to be a program that functions well. So there needs to be more employment support as part of your economic development if we were, and so I think that's also something we can consider, maybe 1,000 to the student and 1,000 to the employer who's taking them on, or, you know, we're expanding into
Councillor King has
too
an
many
opinion.
things. Yeah, I agree with you, Ken. It's too many things, but you know, that's where the real struggle is actually, is not in how many people would like to do it, but in how many business owners are willing to participate.
Councillor King.
We're way overthinking this. So if we've eliminated the academic achievement portion, who says that the two applicants who win this scholarship aren't necessarily in apprenticeship program or trade program of some kind? It doesn't necessarily mean the most qualified individuals now are going to be going into a university stream. I think we leave it at two scholarships. We don't worry about what stream